All right, everybody, welcome back to the MKAU podcast. Today, we have an Australian icon in the building with us. He's an acclaimed, award-winning filmmaker. He has directed such films as 1994's The Crow, Dark City, I, Robot, Knowing, and Gods of Egypt. He is currently working on his next motion picture called RUR, Rossum's Universal Robots, and you can see him live and in living color at Supanova Comic-Con and Gaming in Adelaide from the 31st of October to 2nd of November, and in Brisbane from November 7th to November 9th. It is our esteemed pleasure to welcome Mr. Alex Proyas. Alex, how are you, sir?
I'm well, thank you. Lovely to meet you. And it's sad that you have to say 1994 was The Crow, because is there another Crow, I ask you?
Ah,
Um,
none as good as yours, sir. But yes,
yeah.
there are others. um, but I wanted to ask you straight off the bat. Being such an acclaimed director and filmmaker, for you yourself, now approaching the sort of new millennium with filmmaking, what draws you into directing a film? Is it the story? Is it the ideology? Is it like the creative process in general? Or is it perhaps a film that you see going, oh, this will be a challenge? I pick that one. Like, what is it that sort of draws you into to
um,
pick up a film?
it's often different things, so it's hard to be absolutely specific about it, but
Mm,
it's just something that grabs my imagination
mhm,
as a story.
mm,
And the ingredients that a story always needs to be successful does it involve me as a human being? Is there something I can uh, identify with in
mm,
terms of a story? Is there an emotional connection to the characters? Um, that's always the case, and that can come from many, many different places. Sometimes that comes from your noggin. You just have an idea for something which maybe has been inspired by real life events or a story or a film you saw a long time ago or a story you've read. But it's just, I'm not saying you're plagiarizing it, but there's something in there that makes you extrapolate. I'm the sort of guy who reads. I read a lot, and I always have. My inspiration has always come from stories, from literature,
mhm,
from when I was a kid. I started reading science fiction when I was about the same time I started making films, which is when I was 10 years old.
mm.
Um, and what I loved about science fiction is they allowed me to visualize the world as I read the story.
Yeah,
And, you know, um, I love that process and that kind of, because it became part of my, my, my filmmaking as well,
yeah,
Uh, and often I would imagine where I wanted to see the story go, and it would not go there. But in some ways, that projection into one of those other timelines was actually even more interesting to me than what
sure.
was on the page and where the story eventually went. And I think that started to spark my own writing and conceptualizing of ideas. Is I often embarked upon the stepping stones of the great writers like Arthur C. Clarke and Ray Bradbury and Asimov and Philip K. Dick and all those writers, many of whom I've not adapted their work. Well, Asimov I have, but they certainly infused my DNA, my mental DNA, with their view of the world, their worldview, and that's helped me kind of, I think, create stuff that is hopefully somewhat original. But you can definitely see that their influence if you know their work.
Uh,
Um, but sometimes the stuff will come at me from a completely unique place. Sometimes someone like this film that I made called Knowing, that came to me as a script, and I mean, we changed it a lot. We evolved it and refined it a lot, but the original idea was kind of there, and it just grabbed my attention, and I went, okay, well, this is something that I have interest in and can maybe make something of.
Absolutely. I mean, it's you talk about stories and having a sort of a background in sci-fi, and drawing inspiration from other works to inspire what you yourself direct and create and produce on screen. One of your works, other than, of course, The Crow, we've just recently um, been blessed with, with the 4K release of Dark City. Some 27 years later, I think it is. Having the comparison of Dark City now, you could sort of look back on that film and see that it sort of set the tone for sci-fi movies going into the new millennium. We had Dark City, then of course we had The Matrix, and then you came back and you had iRobot to sort of say, okay, well, this is almost going into the 2010s. So for yourself as a director, seeing that work, that Dark City have such, be placed in that time where there really wasn't anything like it, and I would argue that there hasn't been anything like that since. Were you excited to see, as a director, and seeing that it is essentially your craft, get that re-released? Did you have any hand in having that be brought back to life
Yeah.
all these years later, or is that sort of like a studio, then they just sort of let you know, or
No,
you
no, no.
yourself?
I was involved with it.
Hmm.
I did a new director's commentary for what it's worth.
Yep.
Actually, I think they released the old commentary and the new commentary, which I think for some might be an interesting comparison. See, if I don't even know whether my attitude has changed. It's almost like I almost want to go back and listen to my original commentary and go and listen to
Who's that
what I
guy?
said probably foolishly about the film in
Yeah.
my vain hope that maybe someone would make another one or something. But but no, yeah. So I was very involved,
Okay.
and my DP Darius Wolski did
Mm.
the reissue, did the new 4K transfer, which is good.
Great.
So I knew that would look great, and I proved that. It was all nothing to be said. It was all beautiful. Um, and I think they did some interviews and stuff like that.
Yep.
But no, look, it's the look, I've been asked to go all over the world to screen it,
Mm.
and I haven't really been able to do a lot. I did do a screening in London of the director's cut where I met fans. I've never been more swamped by autographs. It was done in this wonderful theatre called the Prince Charles, which is right in the middle of Soho, which is a fantastic institution. They screen all the sort of, classic films, and
Mm.
they're a retrospective theatre, but they've got great taste in filmmakers and films. And so for me to be in the company of those whose work I was inspired by, the Kubricks and the what have you, the
Yes.
Tarkovskys, etc., I'm like, wow, this is like coming home, for me. And it was a wonderful screening, sold out, in several hundred people. I think it's 300 or 400 people,
Wow.
and then they, the passion that the supporters of the film had
Mm.
was just it was off the charts. It was just insane, and great to see that it's. I actually I don't look at my films
Mm.
after I've made them. Very rarely look at them.
Yep.
Sometimes I'll be roped into having to watch a film because I see all the blemishes and mistakes and compromises. And I said to the Prince Charles crew before the screen, I said, look, I'm going to leave. And my daughter, I was there with my daughter, my wife and daughter. My daughter has never actually seen Dark City.
Okay.
She's 17. So I said, look, my wife and daughter will stay, but I'm going to go. I'll go to a bar across the road or something and get blind drunk.
Have your own
Yeah.
Dark City moment.
But I ended up staying because I
Okay.
hadn't seen it on the big screen for ages,
Yep.
since I made it properly, since I screened it at Cannes in the late 90s.
Mm.
And I found myself kind of going, yeah, well, I can still see all the problems and the blemishes, but it's, I can see why people like it, at least I gave it that, so.
It's something that I think of all films, it deserved its 4K remaster, and to know that you had a first hand in it is, I think, something that is just going to be more exciting for people that may have not known that, because you yourself must see how many, you know, almost like a factory line of 4K releases come out, and it's just like a color grade, or they put
Yeah.
a deleted scene back in, you go, this is not really. You sort of look around the room going, are we happy with this? Is this what we're doing now? But to know that you yourself had a first hand in it. You mentioned before about passion, um, and, having a fan base, and people watching the film. Of course, we speak about The Crow. Um, I think it was long written, as soon as you had done yours with the late great Brandon Lee, that after that it was like, okay, we can see now in the history of comic book films and comic inspired films that, yeah, even today in modern day Hollywood, they sort of almost force feed these sequels. And The Crow, unfortunately, was not exempt from this. Even in recent times, done the recent one. Um, be that as it may, that they've done all the ones. Had circumstances been different, and possibly a la Tim Burton, had they come back to you and said, "Look, Brandon really enjoyed the experience. Would you have done a second one, or do you feel like that movie in itself, knowing everything that you know now, but having a look back, would you feel like that movie was kind of like, had everything been the way it would have been, would
Oh,
it be a
well, I
one
mean,
and done?"
we're talking about parallel universes here and alternate
Yeah,
timelines. So
of course.
who
Yeah.
knows?
I guess what I'm getting
Um,
at is that if they
but
come to you and said, "Do you want to do a second one?" Would you have done, or were you like, "No, I think it's well enough alone"?
no, no, of course I would have done a second one.
Yep.
Brandon, um, in this alternate timeline, when Brandon lived on, he
Yes.
would have become a huge star.
Mm.
And um, then it would be up to Brandon, of course,
Yep.
um, because Brandon would be the one to say, uh, well, look, I don't want to go into any more details about me
Of
and
course.
Brandon,
Of
but
course.
it was a very solid collaboration there, a very strong friendship.
Yes.
Um, so what we would have chosen to do in this parallel universe would be something that we both would have agreed on was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
That would fulfill both of us, both of our, our creative arc.
Mm.
So who knows what that would have been.
Yeah. I mean, because
There would have been no resistance from me about if Brandon said, "Hey, let's do another Crow." I would have gone, "Yeah, let's do it." We'd have done it with a proper budget, which would have been nice.
yeah.
So
But I mean, you probably get this all the time, but that movie has become a cult classic, and so many people are inspired to get into film, not only from an acting, but from art direction and even directing. So, before my next question, I just want to take a moment and say thank you for creating that, because it's an infinite movie, and that's the one thing I guess you dream of as a creator, is to have your work stand the test of time, and everything else you've shot not only stands the test of time, but The Crow as well. So I just want to take that moment and say thank you. Um, in terms of um, Australian filmmaking, sort of bringing it back home. You know, going to these conventions now and seeing everybody and meeting fans in firsthand, outside of the hustle and bustle of premieres and red carpets, things like that. And do you feel like conventions are, compared to doing those premieres and doing those big meetings and sort of Hollywood, screenings, as you just mentioned about, attending with your families and everything like that. Do you find that conventions, although maybe somewhat similar, have a more personal touch as opposed to the red carpet events, or are they kind of the same for you at this point?
well, red carpet events are horrible things that I don't really enjoy.
Fair enough.
Being yelled at by
Mm,
photographers, and so you look at their camera because they get a few more dollars worth of, even with someone like me who no one really wants photographs of me, but if you look at the camera
mm,
rather than looking over to the other camera, they will get $10 more for that. So they yell at you, and it's not very pleasant, particularly when I'm there with my wife or someone, because she really
mm.
doesn't like being yelled at. Um, so so no, there's no comparison. But look, I've done a lot of signings.
Mm.
I do every time I speak publicly. I've been doing a lot of seminars lately about AI and stuff, and
Yes.
I do interview, like live Q&As, and I do this stuff all the time.
Mm.
And I enjoy talking to people, and I even enjoy doing podcasts like this,
Yes.
I
Yay.
was doing I was doing some of my own at one stage during COVID. I'm like, what the fuck do I do now? Can't do anything.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
started podcasting with my own colleagues all over the world, and we
Mm,
did this YouTube. So I enjoy communicating, and I love meeting people who like my work. I mean, it's not just an ego thing. I
mm,
generally like to hear what they how they view my films, what is it that they like about them, and even what they don't like about them. Not many of
mm.
them say that because they've been polite, but
Yeah.
I try and drag it out of them sometimes.
Yeah.
But to me, it's great. And look, my so-called fan base,
Mm,
I noticed this a long, long time ago. A lot of them are filmmakers. A lot of them they're
sure.
either artists, creative people, and I think there's something about my work that people, creative people, are drawn to it. And I go, fantastic, because that's the sort of person, that's me. I'm talking to the next generation, sometimes not even the next generation, sometimes my generation of people. I was inspired. The reason I'm doing what I do is I was
Mm,
inspired by great artists of the past. And
sure.
I want to be an artist. I want to be someone who speaks to an audience and grabs them and inspires them to to go on their own creative journey, you know.
Yep.
So I get that out of many of the people that I meet. At the Supernovas, I've been getting that heaps. And anytime anyone comes up to me wanting a signature, an autograph or a photograph or whatever, I go, they're not doing it because they don't like my work. They're doing
Mm,
it. And so often they tell me stories that I find really emotionally moving.
yeah.
They tell me amazing stories about how my work has influenced their lives, not just their
Mm,
art. And I go, this is like, I mean, honestly, I should be paying them to have this experience and actually, pay money for an autograph or whatever. I go, it's the least I can do is to have a nabber with them about, they can ask questions, and I like that human connection, and I
mm,
like the fact that it's not. I can say stuff to them that is not going to end up in some, you know, uh, tweet somewhere where I get the
mm,
hatred of all sorts
yeah.
of people if I say something that they don't agree with, which is social media. So I do value that very grounded human connection with these people who are, generally speaking, huge supporters of what I do. You know,
Well, I mean, this is, this opportune time for people that may be listening to this podcast. I mean, we hope you are. But if you want to see Alex and express the gratitude in person to him, you can do it at the dates coming up for Supernova in Adelaide on the 31st of October, on 2nd November, and of course in Brisbane on the 7th of November to 9th of November. And that would be perfect. I myself hope to come and see you and shake your hand and thank you in person for all your work. But until then, Alex, thank you for spending the time with us here. And I hope that your journey to Supernova is fruitful and safe, and that everyone gets to come and say hi and meet you in person. But yeah, this has been an absolute trip, and thank you so much.
it's a pleasure. Lovely to talk to you.